Welcome back, troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today we're going to learn about the Fender Tenor Tele. That's right, a Tenor Telecaster. This was part of Fender's Alternate Reality series that they did in 2019. They introduced the Powercaster, the 66, and a newer version of the Meteora within the Made in Mexico lineup. But there were two very unique, interesting guitars that were less than usual within that series, birthed towards the end. They really didn't make a whole bunch of these things, or people were just so pumped up for them that they sold out fast. So we're talking about the Made in Mexico Electric 12, and this guy right here, the Tenor Telecaster. But what exactly is a tenor guitar? Tenor, does it just mean it's a tiny guitar? No, not exactly. They do make short scale instruments. You're going to notice that this tenor guitar actually only has 4 strings, so your neck is really tiny, kind of like certain banjo necks. And these were first developed in the 1920s by both Gibson and Martin, basically as a way for 4-string tenor banjo players to be able to double on guitar without necessarily learning a brand new instrument, because that's the beauty of these things, is you can use them in so many different tunings. The most basic one, you can just tune it like a regular guitar, you just don't have your low E and A strings, so D, G, B, E. One of the most popular ones to do though is C, G, D, A. Kind of like a viola, but you can do a whole bunch of open tunings. You can do slide playing. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of different possibilities on these things. I guess you could also see it as a beginner guitar in the fact that it only has the top 4 strings, or you could just use this as a tool to get away from playing the same old stuff, because having 4 strings, it's going to make you think differently. Because people have been using these in jazz music, folk music, country, pop, slide playing. It might only have 4 strings, but it can definitely do a bunch of interesting stuff. So when I saw Fender was finally releasing a version of their own, I got on board with this. Because as of today, the biggest manufacturer of these tenor guitars has to be Eastwood. And they made their own Telecaster version, so when Fender followed it up with an official one, I knew I had to document this guitar. And it took me quite a long time to get my hands on one of these. Check out the unboxing video for the full story on that one. So even though it is a reduced scale length, it is not quite as small as like the Pee-wee guitars or those little Stratocasters and Telecasters you can buy. But you can tell it is shrunken down from a regular Telecaster body. But here you can see how it is smaller. And if you want to completely dwarf it, you can switch over to a baritone guitar. Who knew there were so many different versions of an electric guitar? Some of my favorite tenor instruments have to be the vintage Gibsons though, because tenor acoustic guitars, they don't really do much of anything for me because, I mean, they're just 4-string acoustic guitars. It's not necessarily my style of instrument. I don't get all worked up about them. But whenever I see a vintage 50s Gibson electric guitar in tenor, it gets my collector senses tingling. Because sure, there's the ES-150 and the Charlie Christian model of that, but when you find like a really high-end arch top that's in tenor format, or a Les Paul Special, or even an SG Junior, or a Standard, they're just so goofy looking you can't help but love them. So I hope to one day document a vintage Gibson tenor guitar. But until then, I'll get my first taste of a tenor on this one today. So first impressions on this thing, you know, the body being smaller, I think it's in proportion with the neck, so you really don't notice it too much. I mean, it looks a little bit goofy here without having a pickup cover. I wish they would have put one on there, just, you know, give it the regular Tele look. But at the same time, it adds to the doofiness of the guitar, so I love it. But it's all about this neck. Kind of feels like you're playing a ukulele. That's right, you can actually tune this to ukulele tuning, so it's kind of like a baritone ukulele, but now you can play with regular tuning. So far, I've only had it tuned to regular guitar tunings, and it's really just helped me become less reliant on the E and A strings, and just makes me focus on these. So in that aspect, I really enjoy this so far. But let's go ahead and throw this thing on the workbench and take an individual look at its parts and specs before we sit down for a playing demo. Inside the Tenor Telecaster, what I'm really curious is if we can actually install a third pickup right here or not. Because if you didn't catch the unboxing video, I had to wait so long to get this one because the neck pickup was dead at the dealer, so they had to send me another one. So if I were to get that rewound, I could install it. But the moment of truth? Nope, you can't do that, not without additional routing. I mean, it's underneath the pick guard, so if you want to do it, you can. It's not really going to hurt the guitar that badly. But it almost looks like you could get away with like a really tiny mini humbucker in here. I'm not sure what kind of market there is for aftermarket tenor pickups, but I'm sure there's somebody that can wind you one custom made. As far as the pickup routes, it looks like they have all been shielded off, including in the control cavity right here. Looks like there's also something along the edge right there. And we also have a Tenor Tele barcode right here. But let's take a look at this pickup. They're not actually calling these things anything too fancy, just the Tenor Tele Alnico 5. So that means you have the Alnico 5 magnets in here. And that's the same thing that they're calling this bridge one, except for obviously the bridge one has a little bit of a different base plate on it because it's one of those style pickups that mounts directly to the bridge. Just, you know, it looks cute and tiny. But there you can see your cavity route in there, pretty much the same as everything else. And it looks like there's that little green sticker we've been missing. And it is a string through body style with 4 individual saddles. So only the string through option on these guys, no top loading. But it looks like 2 250K pots on here, and just kind of a standard circuit board for your toggle switch. And just all your basic stuff. Neck pickup, both of them, bridge pickup, master volume, master tone. Now I am noticing that this is dragging against the plate, so maybe I'll have to mess with that real quick. It sticks up a bit now, but hey, at least it's not dragging anymore. And our pickups read 7.3 in the bridge. Middle position looks like 2.7, and this one, wow, 4.24. So the bridge is really hot on this one. These Telecasters utilize an alder body. I've got to say, the wood grain doesn't look the nicest to me. There's like this big green streak in it right here. But at the same time, it slightly looks like ash in certain ways. So, I mean, it's kind of a love it or leave it type thing. But if you're not a huge fan of this, there are 2 other colors available besides Butterscotch Blonde. You've got Fiesta Red and Lake Placid Blue. It was a really tough choice for me. I didn't like the red at first, but it kind of grew on me. But it was ultimately between the Butterscotch Blonde and the Lake Placid Blue. I mean, you really can't go wrong with either one. Moving on to our neck, it is maple, and you've got 21 vintage tall frets with a 9.5-inch radius on this one. But I think what you'll find is super interesting is our neck specs. Starting with the scale length, 22.75. Most Teles are about up here at 25.5. Our nut width is 1.25 inches. It stays fairly consistent, 1.52 by the 12th. But now check out our first fret neck depth. 0.86. This is like the super beefy, chunky U neck. Then by the 12th, 0.89. It just feels so massive. And it's because it's super skinny, but chunky at the same time. They use a synthetic bone nut on this one, and because it's a Mexican-made one, they lined this area with a black plastic, but that's where your truss rod is. And take a look at that. I love the fact that they legitimately named this the Tenor Tele. And you've just got your 4 modern-style tuners on here, so it's not the vintage style that goes in, you wrap it around the post. And no string trees. I've seen quite a few written reviews about these guitars on dealers' websites that the quality of the one that they got was not so good, like it had sharp fret edges, or like the quality of the finish wasn't so nice. But this example, I think it looks okay. I mean, it's got just a hair of fret sprout, but I don't really think that's Fender's fault. I think that's just, you know, shipping and humidity changes. It's nothing that I really notice while playing or anything, but if you run your finger along like this, yes, you do. The only thing that I notice while taking this thing apart is that 3 of these screws are actually stripped. Like, they just keep spinning and spinning and spinning. There is no final tightening down like this one has. I mean, it still secures the bridge, but, you know, it's something to know about. And our first string right here, the nut was just a little bit tight, so I widened that out, but everything else appears to be pretty okay on this particular example. So let's flip over to the back here. Nothing too crazy going on. Now, the wood grain back here, I actually like. I think it's just that big splotch that kind of ruins this example for me on the front, but the back looks pretty nice here. But there you can see your 4 string ferrules. You've got the standard output jack here on the side, strap button here, and at the top, and a tiny little neck plate here. And our freaky little goofy neck still has that skunk stripe. What I find funny is the truss rod like just takes up the entire neck in this thing. But these were made in Mexico in 2019. And I'm pretty sure these are like Fender's really good tuners, aren't they? Not locking, but still pretty good. But all in all, I think this for $500, I think they sold them too cheaply. There's a reason why you can't find these in stock. All the brand new ones are gone. You might find one at a store that doesn't sell online or hasn't listed it online. But as far as the ones that do show up on Reverb, unfortunately, they are selling more used than they did brand new. Now, will it always be like that? I think it comes down to if Fender ever does this again. I would love to see more manufacturers give attention to tenor guitars, because even if it's just a limited edition, they do it one time, I love that these freaky little things exist. But here's a look at your neck profiles, 1st fret and the 12th fret. And it weighs 5 pounds, 9.9 ounces. So that's another benefit to these things. They're really lightweight. So let's go ahead, plug it in, try a few different tunings, and see if I like tenor guitars. Now that we know everything about the Tenor Tele, what are my final thoughts on this thing? Get one if you can. I had such a fun time with this thing. I think it's mainly just because I don't really go through a bunch of alternate tunings on a regular guitar, but I just love like tuning 3 of the strings to be exactly the same. And then you take it like a 5th down on the other string. You can just do a bunch of wangly jangly stuff. So it's kind of like a 12 string in that aspect where you get a bunch of extra notes on it. You can do stuff like that. You just imagine how much fun you could have with slide guitar on one of these things. So for me, it's a big win. I think this is a great musical tool to have. I mean, it might not be your everyday guitar, but I think having a tenor within your collection just for a little bit of inspiration, it's fantastic because losing those lower 2 strings really stretches your imagination imagination as far as what you can do. So it's a big win for me on the Tenor Tele. I would love to, even more so now, find one of the vintage Gibson ones. One small thing I want to note, though, is I think my pickups were wired out of phase at the shop who graciously installed the new pickup, but at the same time, kinda like it because it gives you something a little bit different that all the other Tenor Teles likely don't have. So if my middle position sounded different than yours, well, now you probably know why. So let's go ahead and check this one out under Blacklight. Under Blacklight here, not too much going on. You can see your pick guard glows, and the body itself, it is a poly finish, but it appears to be glowing a little bit as well. And the back of the neck is actually a nice satin feeling, so it's super comfortable to play as well. But this is just a fun little guitar here. Let's go ahead and check out the factory soft case. If you bought one of these brand new, it will come with a soft case. I mean, it's actually fairly decent. It's got some padding to it. I'd say about an inch of foam. You've got a nice little zipper pouch in here to keep your case candy or strap, whatever you're taking with you to your gigs. You also have a name tag on the back so you don't confuse it with anybody else's Tenor Tele. Straps, I mean, you know, for what this is, I'm glad that they gave it at least something, because they didn't have to. But no neck block in here or anything like that. As far as official case candy, you get your truss rod wrench in here with your owner's manual and stuff, Fender hang tags, lesson tag, and most people won't get an extra pickup, but this is that dead one, just in case I ever want it to get rewound. Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed learning about the Tenor Tele. This is normally the part where I tell you this guitar's for sale and you can find it on my reverb shop. I'll leave a link in the description. I don't know. I'm gonna have a hard time saying goodbye to this one. I don't really play enough to justify keeping a guitar, but I don't think I'm going to list this for public sale. If somebody wants to, strong arm me with $1,000 offer to take it, sure, I'll sell it for that. But otherwise, I think I'm going to hold on to this one for a while because it's just that much fun. All right, Troglodytes, thank you for tuning in today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.